Guys, Matt Mollahan Fishing here. Talked about doing some fall videos, so I figured this is a perfect day to do it. I wanted to show you guys what I'm looking for when I'm kind of chasing that fall bite. A lot of what happens is these fish, start to scatter, start to get real finicky. I kind of find some larger creeks, and when I pull in these larger creeks, I pull into some smaller pockets off these larger creeks. And I usually start mid-lake. If I'm going to a lake that I've never been to before, I'm gonna start mid-lake. That's typically where, on most lakes, where a majority of the concentration of your fish are gonna be. So I like to start on some of in the mid-lake area, try to find the largest creek in that mid-lake area. And what I'm looking for are some of these smaller pockets where some of these bait fish are starting to migrate into these pockets. I pulled in this pocket here and I saw a little bit of schooling going on out here. So what I do is I'll kind of idle through, and I'll kind of zigzag and idle through some of these little smaller pockets if I see some signs of life, some blue herring, some birds on the bank, some schooling, bait popping top of the water, fish schooling. And I noticed a little bit of that when I pulled in here. So this is a perfect little pocket, perfect area where these bait fish are starting to move in. And these fish get real finicky during the fall. A lot of times you'll find them schooling over 30, 40, 50 foot of water, and it's just real random, and they're just following big balls of bait. I mean, that's it. They're locked in and keyed in on bait. A lot of times they get keyed in on some of that smaller shad, threadfin shad, smaller gizzard shad, minnows. Just depends on what lake you're fishing, what the forage is. Here on Lake Murray, there's a good concentration of fish that focus on those blueback herring. And what happens is those herring and the shad start to kind of migrate upriver. And they do that on a lot of lakes. They do it here, although over the last couple of years it's been so warm that those fish, a lot of those bait fish in the bass have not really migrated upriver like they typically do. This year it seems like it's cooled off a little bit. Water temps in the upper 70s, lower 80s right now. So the migration is just starting. So again, I'm just looking for specific pockets and specific areas that have signs of life and good concentration of bait. Because once that bait starts to move, those fish move, and again they get scattered out. And I like to find pockets that have kind of steeper banks, deeper areas going towards the backs of them, because that's where those fish will set up when that water really cools off. They'll kind of stay there and hang out there through most of the fall, and even sometimes some of the winter if there's enough deep water. So I got my Humminbird Helix Gen 2s pulled up, and basically what I pull up is I pull up my side scan, down scan, and sonar. So what I'm looking for are specific areas that have a good concentration of bait. So here, when I'm kind of idling through and riding through this area, you can see some balls of bait. And of course that's what you want to find when you're pulling into an area like this. You definitely want to find that bait. It's critical. If you want to find the fish, you got to find the bait this time of year. So again, you can see we're kind of in between 30 and 40 foot of water, kind of just idling through, and see here again another big ball of bait. Don't see a ton of fish around them, but again the bait is starting to migrate back here, so those bass are not far behind. And again, I have seen some schooling back here, so they're definitely in here. And you can see looks like there's maybe some brush down there, some things on a few just scattered pieces of cover on the bottom here. And again, you can kind of see the bait's kind of tucked to the bottom down there. And again, that's kind of what you're looking for when you're pulling the backs of these pockets. So again, typically if I see some activity like this, see some schooling, I'll stop and make some casts. In a separate video I'll go over kind of my favorite baits for the fall. But you can see, again, good concentration of bait. Looks like you got some fish chasing a little bit of bait down here underneath. See on the side scan there's a good ball of bait right there. When I pull up my Lake Master mapping here, which is typically what I use, you can see there's a great point right here that kind of sits right in the middle of the back of this pocket. That's a great place for those bait fish and those fish to set up, and that's a place I'll definitely stop and fish, just because I mean there's a really good chance there's going to be, you know, some fish hanging out on that point. It's just a perfect area for them to pull up on and feed. Also, what you're going to find is you see a lot of deeper water areas kind of going into the back of this creek here. So you got the back of this pocket back here, back of this pocket, and you got some deep water going into each one, and that's really what you want to find. That makes, you know, that makes for a great pocket, a great area, because those fish have a place to kind of go and pull out, move up and feed, and then move back out into some deeper water. That's really what you want to find. The other critical parts of this is a lot of what you're going to find on these banks out here is a lot of rock, a lot of hard bottom. And when that water temp gets into the 60s, lower 70s, that is what they're going to lock into for the fall and the winter months. So it's absolutely critical that you find areas with hard bottoms too. So this is just an ideal little pocket, little creek here. Pull back up my down and side scan, and what I'll do is I'll kind of cruise to the back till I stop seeing bait. And once I stop seeing bait, then I pretty much know that there's probably not going to be a good concentration of fish in this area towards the back. They're still really at the mouth of this pocket and hadn't quite made it to the back. And you can see it's pretty dry back here. Not a whole lot of activity, especially not like I was seeing, you know, there at the mouth. So I'll just turn back around and kind of head back out towards the mouth and scan some areas. You know, I'll look for some brush piles, look for some you know, some stuff right out in the middle of this pocket that I can mark and go back and fish, and again, just look for some schoolers and look for some areas that have a good concentration of bait and hopefully some fish. A lot of times too, you know, these fish will kind of get out and run these banks a little bit. You know, again, a lot of hard bottom, a lot of wood, a lot of laydowns, and that's what those fish are going to kind of, you know, migrate to. So, you know, there'll be a good concentration of fish that move shallow. So a perfect time, you know, my favorite topwater bait to throw during the fall is going to be a buzzbait. So I'll take a buzzbait out and I'll put the trolling motor on high, and I'll run a lot of that hard bottom, a lot of those laydowns, and that's really key to catching these fall fish. But again, as I pull out back out here to the mouth of this pocket, what I'm going to find here in just a minute is we're going to come back out on a lot of this bait that I was seeing before, and I know that those fish are really in that 30 to 40 foot depth range. So, you know, again, that's kind of what I'm going to focus on when I pull into a pocket, when I'm looking for some of these fish. You know, boom, perfect. I mean, boom, 26 feet brush pile. You definitely got some fish in there. There's a huge ball of bait. I mean, again, you definitely want to mark an area like that and come back and fish it. You know, that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Using your electronics is going to be key this time of year. That'd be a great place to pick up a fish or two in a pocket that a lot of people will miss. A lot of people run into a pocket and they just run straight to a bank, or they run straight to maybe a stretch of docks. You know, again, not that that's necessarily wrong, but I want to figure out where the bait is, because that's where a majority of the fish are. Again, boom, 30 foot of water. Look at that huge ball of bait. I mean, that is just absolutely critical to what you're doing here in the fall. And again, this bait is all migrating to the back of this pocket, and the more that water temp drops, the more they're going to move to the backs. You know, you got some docks up here at the mouth of this pocket. Again, certainly fish can set up on those areas, but you want to try to stay, you know, pretty much where that bait is. So again, even if I was fishing topwater and fishing the bank, I wouldn't want to go all the way to the back of this pocket, simply because I know that the bait fish aren't back there. So even if there are fish shallow, they're not going to be in the back of this pocket. So I'm going to stick to the areas that are right off where those fish and that bait are. So again, that's just a great way to locate fish quickly and you know, and catch some fall bass. It's going to be a lot of running and gunning, a lot of moving around and idling and looking for areas like this. You know, so try to keep it real simple. Try not to make a whole lot of casts until I find exactly what I'm looking for, and what I'm looking for is the bait. Again, it's the fall transition, so that's what you want to find. you know, I'll do a couple other videos here show you what I look for as that water temp really starts to get down in the 60s and lower 70s. Look for a lot of rock piles and kind of show you guys how I locate those and what some good areas are. And then from there, I'll show you guys what baits I like to use, you know, for whatever the conditions are, or you know, especially at the beginning of the fall transition into, you know, the fall and winter months. So stand by, and we'll get a couple more videos at you. Hope this helps. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, so I was talking a little bit about the fall fishing. You know, finding the bait, you know, starting mid-lake, pulling in some pockets, you know, making, you know, idling through, using my Humminbird Helix 10 Gen 2s and my Lake Master mapping. Trying to find some areas that they're holding some bait, idling through, using my downside and sonar with my mega imaging to locate, you know, areas that are holding bait. And then what else I'm looking for are, I mean, this is just an ideal area. It's got everything that you're looking for in a pocket or a creek. You got deep water on this side over here. A lot of hard bank, a lot of good laydowns. On this side over here, you got a lot of docks. You know, a lot of kind of developed bank with a little point right out here in the middle. Good little pockets, more laydowns down the side. You know, again, just a lot of cover, a lot of areas for these fish to really, you know, get into and have places to hold up for the fall, even the winter. And kind of as we idle back, show you here, see all the deep water coming in. I mean, that's a great indicator of a good fall creek where a lot of bass are going to hold. They'll even hold in some of these areas during the winter time. They move up, move down, and the bait fish will hold in those areas too. Great little point pulling in. Again, you know, this has got undeveloped bank and this has got developed bank. So you got some shallower docks, some deeper docks, another little point here, some other docks, another little point back in the back. You know, again, just an ideal creek for what I'm looking for during the fall. So located the bait, and now I want to, you know, start to fish an area. So where do you start? Well, again, during the beginning of the fall transition, like I talked about, all these fish are going to be real scattered, real finicky. They're really just starting to make that transition, and they're following big balls of bait. So I've located the bait now. Again, I pull into a pocket. I'm looking for some schooling activity, looking for, you know, the depth that the bait is going to be at, where I can find some fish, looking for brush piles, any cover where there may be a good amount of bait holding. Again, that's a good indicator that there's going to be some fish in that area. So I'm pretty much going to start, you know, looking for some schoolers, or again, I'm going to start looking towards the banks near where those bait fish are setting up, you know, because that's where those fish will pull up on the bank, because they can pull up on the bank, move back out and feed on those fish. You know, the bait that's out towards the middle of that pocket, or, you know, again, they can move up on bank, feed on bluegill and you know, crawfish and anything else that might be up on the bank. You know, especially again with all this hard bottom, all this rock, it's just an ideal fall area. So, you know, the fall transition set in, water temps in the lower 70s to upper 60s. You know, these fish have really settled in. So what I've got back here in the back is a fantastic point that comes out in the back of this pocket. It's got real good deep water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan it, and what I'm looking for are rock piles, because that's where those fish are really going to set up. Again, you got some stuff down here on the bottom. You can see you got some fish on the bottom down there, ball of bait. But what I'm really looking for, again, on my Lake Master mapping is a point like this towards the back, and I want to check it for rock, because when the fall pattern sets in and the winter pattern sets in, these fish are really going to set up around rock. And so I'm just going to idle right over this point and kind of idle around it, idle right over top, idle down where the drops are. It's got some really good drops on this point, which is where they like to get in the fall. I'm looking for rock piles, because that's what they're going to congregate around. And again, got a good solid ball of bait right here. I mean, you just you start to look on the side scan here, you're starting to see some rock, and that's really what you want to look for. when you're looking at some of these areas, because like I said, that's really where they're going to set up. So I want to find some rock piles. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark them, and I'm going to look for fish on those rock piles. And what you want to look for is really those, it looks like a little Sharpie dot on top of those rock piles. You kind of want to find where they're holding, where they're congregating to. We got some more bait right here. Got some laydowns. You can see on the side scan real good right here. Got some good laydowns. Got some fish. So you can see there's definitely some activity back here. So we just kind of scan over and okay. So what you got coming up right here is some good rock. So you can see it on the side scan real good. You got rock on both sides. Come up on this point, and that's what I want to look for right there. I want to find some of that good rock, transition, because again, that's a lot of where those fish are going to set up. So I'll mark some of these spots, mark some of these bigger rocks, stumps. Stumps are great. Again, got some really good rock right here, almost like a ledge there. See, real good rock in here. And that's really what I'm idling around looking for. So once I find those areas, I mark it on my Humminbird Helix here, and then I come back and fish it. You know, so again, this is just a typical fall area. And again, you got a lot of hard bottom. That's a really good indicator that this point is going to have a lot of rock on the bottom of it. A lot of undeveloped, a lot of laydowns in these pockets, deeper water going into each one of these pockets. I mean, again, just ideal for fall fishing. And again, got another good rock right here. And you just want to find, you know, again, where the bait is, you know, with the depth and those good rock piles. And that's how you're going to locate the fish. You know, as that fall transition really sets in. I mean, a lot of good, you know, there's some good chunk rock through here. All areas that these fish are going to really set up on, and make for some good fall fishing, because they'll school up around it, and you know, you usually can catch, you know, 3, 4, 5, even sometimes 6, 10 fish off one single spot. Again, you got some good laydowns out here, some good structure, some good cover, but that's all really good rock right there, and that is what you want to find. That is a fantastic spot right there. So you just want to drop a waypoint on it and come back and fish that spot. And again, you know, you can look on your down imaging and look to kind of find those white little Sharpie dots where those fish could be hanging out. Again, you got some good structure right here, some good rock. Again, just a great area with some good brush. You got brush mixed in. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that for fall fishing. So again, there's that rock pile I'm talking about. That's what you're looking for right there. And just a plus when you get laydowns. You can see those laydowns down there real good in the shadows of them. That's just an added bonus. So again, that's what you like to find. So you got, on one side, you got some developed area with some good docks where they'll get around during the fall. On the other side, you got some good undeveloped water, hard bottom, a lot of laydowns, deep water, you know, where they'll set up on in the winter and fall months too. So again, it's got a great point in the back. It's got a lot of good rock, a lot of good structure and cover. This is an area that you can fish all the way through the winter. So just a perfect pocket, perfect creek. That's what you're looking for. So again, use that Lake Master mapping to find these points, find these areas that make good sense. You got your creek channel running all the way through right behind this bank. I mean, again, just ideal, absolutely ideal. So next video will be on the baits I like to use for the fall bite. Thanks, guys.